y'all, I'm Tracy, and this is Just Dig It Farms. I am just sitting here looking over my new book that I got, The Lost Book of Herbal Remedies. I just got it in the mail. I'm so excited about it. And I was just looking at a couple of the herbs that I am about to go plant in the Medicinal Herb Garden, like marshmallows. I grew it from seed in my garden shed here this year, and I've still got it in the pot. I'm gonna get it in the ground, but I was just looking at all the benefits of it. Like, one of them is skin irritations, inflammations, and swelling. So this sounds like a good herb to add to the salve that I'm going to be making. This book is awesome. It's The Lost Book of Herbal Remedies, The Healing Power of Plant Medicine by Nicole, Apelian, she's a Ph.D, and Claude. This is a great book. It's just a great reference on the medicinal herbs. She has them in alphabetical order, so you can just go through and it tells all about each herb. Like, tells about the plant itself, growing it, how to identify it, what's the edible use, medicinal use. It's just a great reference guide. So I'm super excited I ordered this. So Champ and I are about to go get in the garden. We're gonna add some medicinal herbs to the garden this morning and plant a few more herbs that have been grown. We're gonna add those to the garden and just pull weeds and work in there a little bit this morning. You ready, Champ? Champ, you ready to go work? You ready to go get busy? Let's go. Let's go. This is the back of my garden shed, and directly across from it is the forest and the creek. And this little area right here, right behind the garden shed, I'm making a little hugelkultur medicinal garden here. So this spot back here gets a lot of shade. It gets a little bit of dappled light, but it mostly gets shade. I'm going to make a bed that goes around this tree, comes around, kind of wraps around and goes down a pretty good ways and comes back up. So this bed is going to be for medicinal plants that require shade. So things like my witch hazel here, that requires shade. Witch hazel is an antiseptic, and you'll find it used a lot in things like your astringents for your face, or I use it to make our bug spray with. There's all different kinds of ways to use witch hazel. I don't really know how to process it and use it from a plant, but that's one of the ones I'm going to research and learn about how to use more of. But I am growing it, and it does require shade. So this is also a native for the southeast, so it should do really well in this spot. And then the other plant that I have in here so far is my Camellia sinensis tea plant. Earlier this spring, I had Jean plant this for me over in the woodland garden, but I knew when we did it that that really was not the right spot, and I wasn't going to like it there because I was afraid it's really going to get neglected over there. So I had Jean move it over here for me. This is Camellia sinensis tea plant, and that is the witch hazel, and that's all I have here so far. But I've got plans for a few other things like bloodroot, yellow root, and I really would like to grow things like some ginseng and some different things like that. But this is just the beginning of this garden. This right here is a pile of stuff I've just been throwing here like a compost pile. So this winter, when the snakes aren't as bad, I'm gonna take a hike through the woods and gather up some decaying logs and debris and bring them up here and put in this hugelkultur bed and help build this bed up for my shade-loving medicinal herbs. Hugelkultur is a German word. It means heel mound or mound garden, and it's a German-style gardening technique. So basically the gist of it is you get old decaying wood or logs and you put those down as a bottom layer, because first of all they absorb moisture and release it back into your soil, and they are a habitat for a lot of microbial life, a lot of microorganisms. So it's really good. You can put that as a bottom layer to your bed, and it's just creating habitat for all that life to work and provide nutrients to your soil. The next layer is just composting. You're just adding
rotten fruit, rotten vegetables, clippings from the garden, kitchen scraps, eggshells, coffee grounds, manure. You're just making like a ginormous compost pile. And then when you get that pile created, when you've got a nice big pile created, then you just plant directly into it. And it's just like planting into a compost pile. And those logs at the bottom is the key to it, because they're aiding in your moisture, and you shouldn't have to water that garden very much. And creating that habitat for the microbial life, which is adding nutrients to your soil and helping to keep that soil very healthy. So that's pretty much the basic idea of a hugelkultur bed. And that's what I'm going to do in this area behind me for my shade-loving medicinal herbs. I'm just going to make me a little hugelkultur bed here. I'll make a video a little bit later on telling you more about hugelkultur gardening. I'm planting some feverfew out here in the medicinal herb garden. I'm putting it around my Florida sugar maple that I have out here. I grew these from seed earlier this year. And I'm just now getting them in the ground. I'm out of biotone still. We still haven't got any in at work. So I'm still out of it, but I wish I had it. I love to use that stuff when I plant my stuff. I can always see a big difference when you use the biotone. My chamomile that I planted around my olive containers in my little herb garden are not doing well. One of them's doing okay, but the other one died. And I'm thinking that maybe I should plant that where it gets a little bit of shade. Maybe that hot all day long sun, like it's hot from morning time until evening there. There's no shade there at all. I'm thinking that maybe it's not liking that too much. And in my medicinal herb garden, there's no shade over there at all either. We planted a Florida sugar maple to provide a little bit of shade and a shade for a sit spot, but it's not mature yet and hasn't created that shade yet. So there's really not a shady spot over there either. So I'm thinking about planting a couple of more chamomile plants underneath my teepee trellis here. This is my teepee trellis, and I've got a couple of pole beans planted around it. There are some of those Roma bush beans, and I have planted them down that way. And one of my sweet viewers told me that it is actually a pole bean, a runner bean, instead of a bush bean. I didn't know that. It's the first time I've ever planted them. So I transplanted what survived the armadillo and put them on my trellises that Jean and I made. That one and that one both have the Roma bush beans, and they're all doing good. And right in the middle of this trellis is where I'm going to plant this chamomile. Maybe it'll get a little bit of shade, and maybe it'll start flourishing. I've never been able to get chamomile to grow. It just always dies out on me, and I've never been able to get it to grow. So I'm going to try this. Maybe this will work. I hope. I love chamomile tea. Now I'm going to add valerian. And what I've read so far about valerian is it helps people with insomnia. Helps you be able to sleep. Helps you go to sleep quickly and stay asleep. That's plus it's got a lot of other great medicinal properties, but that's the one that I'm looking at right now because I'm dealing with menopause right now, guys, and I'm dealing with not being able to sleep good, hot flashes, night sweats, all that junk that comes with it. So I'm researching and trying to find some natural remedies or some natural help for those issues. And valerian is one that's supposed to help you be able to sleep good. Now, I do use my essential oils. I use vetiver and lavender on my feet at night. The lavender and the vetiver rubbed on your feet at night, that helps too. It helps a lot. But with this menopause issues, I have to kick things in gear a little bit and find a few other extra things I can be doing. Next is coneflower, echinacea. This one's called green twister. And I grew this from seed this year. I've got some other echinacea out here in the garden on this front border of the potager. I've got two different kinds out here. I can't remember which one this one was, but I'll put the name of it at the bottom of the screen. I'll go look in my garden journal. That's why garden journals are so important. You think you're gonna remember, and you don't. And down here on this end, I have purpurea, I believe is this one. Isn't that pretty? This one's really showy, really pretty. I planted this last 2 falls ago, I think, or 2 springs ago. And this one is multiplied. I've got some babies popping up over here. The sage kind of took over some of it, but echinacea is really good for building your immune system. And it has a lot of other wonderful medicinal properties. I'm probably going to be sharing about this one on one of our Sunday afternoons in the garden. I want to have a lot of echinacea coneflowers in the garden and in the orchard. I've got a few out in the orchard too, but I want to just include them all in the garden. I love coneflowers, echinacea. It has so many great medicinal benefits and is so beautiful, and the pollinators love it, beneficials love it. It's just a great, great flower to add to the garden. So I'm gonna add these new ones that I've been growing, green twister, all along my medicinal herb border. I got a few herbs planted in the medicinal herb garden this past week, and I thought I would just take this afternoon and walk you guys through the garden and kind of show you the medicinal herb garden. So I'm in the potager garden, and we've got the medicinal herb garden just planted on the border here. And it's not just medicinal herbs. I've got a mix of different plants in here that'll attract pollinators and beneficials and culinary herbs, and it's just a mix of everything. I'm just calling it my medicinal herb garden because I'm trying to focus on mostly plants in this area that are for medicinal use. I've got a eucalyptus tree started here in the corner, and we like to take the leaves of this and put it in like steamy hot water, like when we're sick or got a cold or anything like that. We'll steam some hot water and put eucalyptus leaves in it and put some essential oils in it and just kind of put a towel over our head and breathe in that steam. It's also real pretty to use for decor, but all of this is red clover, and I can't believe it's still growing so well because usually clover is just really dying out right now because it's getting so hot, but it's usually just a cool season thing for us, but it's still rocking and rolling in here. Clover is edible. You can eat the young flowering heads and the leaves of clover raw or cooked, and it's also used to make tinctures and different things for menopause symptoms. So I'm going to study and research that a little bit more. There's clary sage right here and over here. These are just California poppies, and we just threw some wildflower seed in here. I planted some echinacea, some lemon bee balm that's starting to bloom. That's a cute little bloom. And this is a rose. This rose is autumn damask. It is a very, very fragrant rose, a real high fragrance. It's used a lot for medicinal uses because is so high in fragrance. I've got 4 other roses here that I chose for the Medicinal Herb Garden because they form really good rose hips. So this one is Hansa, and it is a rugosa rose. Rugosa roses make awesome rose hips. So that's a good one to use in a medicinal herb garden for the rose hips, which are real high in vitamin C. This rose is Facey's Blueberry. It makes really good rose hips, and the honeybees love it because it's an open flower and they can get to the center of it and get nectar. So the honeybees like this rose. I've got horehound planted here. I'm planning to make some horehound and thieves cough drops. I have a ridiculous cough because of my allergies, and I'm going to try to make up some horehound and thieves cough drops. That's pineapple sage, more echinacea, feverfew that I just planted, and that is clover. That's the red clover. I got to figure out how to use that for menopause. There's valerian and more echinacea there. Here's 2 other roses for the Medicinal Herb Garden. This one's Old Blush. It makes smaller hips. There's another lemon bee balm. That is a cornflower. That is just a wildflower. What you got?
This is supposed to be Indian corn, but doesn't look like Indian corn to me. Looks pretty good.
Well, the seed packet said Indian corn.
I know. Looks pretty good. I just picked it. It's a little bit, needs another few days, but there's piles of it ready.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Have you tasted it?
The coons and the coons and crows will be in here cleaning it up here, and deer. See,
Yeah.
it's not ready. It needs at least another week.
Yeah.
But it's pretty filled out.
We'll taste of it and see
All
if it's sweet. Champ. He wants it. He's waiting on it.
Man,
Good.
that's
Starchy or sweet?
sweet. It's milky.
Hmm.
Taste it.
Dang, that's good.
I know it. Hey, give me my corn. What's the matter with you?
That's real sweet.
I know it.
It's not Indian corn though.
Well, the seed pack was wrong.
Champ wants a bite.
Here, you want some? Here. Billy toe cob.
That'll keep him entertained for just a few
I'm
minutes.
gonna go give some to the chickens.
They'll love it.
It is sweet.
It's very sweet. Alright, back to the Medicinal Herb Garden. More coneflowers, lemongrass, lemon balm, more feverfew, and this rose is Katy Road Pink, which makes really big, nice rose hips. So with these rose hips, I like to make rose hip tea, which is really high in vitamin C, but I also like to include the rose hips with the elderberry cough syrup that I make. There's mullein and more echinacea, and this is marshmallow and bronze fennel. Let's see if I missed anything. So this is all just the beginning stages of this garden. We just started it this year. So there's not a whole lot in here, and it's not real big yet, but It will be. It's coming. I think that was everything. But I also have a lot of herbs that I use medicinally all throughout the garden, like on my borders here. There's more bee balm, there's more anise, and of course a lavender. I use lavender a lot. This is yarrow. And more roses, lavender, echinacea. This is a different kind. Let's see what else is in here. There's thyme, there's catmint. You can use it. And of course my borage. If you haven't watched my Sunday afternoon in the garden featuring borage and calendula, y'all go check out those 2 videos. Tell you all about them, how I use them. Let's look over here. Here's the calendula and borage. I've just got them scattered all throughout the garden for all different kinds of purposes. There's some echinacea down there that I use. More catmint. Here's sage, culinary sage. Here's some echinacea. Isn't that pretty? Echinacea is real good for building your immune system. And of course, rosemary. Can't have a herb garden without rosemary. Over here at my garden shed, I have a lot of other medicinal herbs growing over here in pots. There's some bee balm by the chicken coop here. Oregano. Here's Australian tea tree. That's where your tea tree oil comes from. And there's a few little things over here in my sink. I just stuck them in here to water them. But look at this plant. This is a ephedra. Shelly grew these this year at work. It's a ephedra, and it's like the natural pseudoephedrine. So like a natural painkiller. I don't really know what to do with it, but she grew them for our little herb class that we had, and I grabbed one and I'm going to research it and see how to use it. But that's pretty cool, ephedra. I think this is toothache plant, but I'm not 100% sure what it was. These were some seeds that I grew, and I don't know. They kind of got mislabeled. I'm not sure what that one was. I don't know. Just kind of leaving those in the pot until I figure out what they are. I've got all different kinds of mints in pots. Plus I have mint all in the orchard. I told you guys about this spot earlier. This is where I'm going to be growing my shade-loving medicinal herbs back here. And I picked up a few this week at work to add to it. So far I have witch hazel and camellia sinensis. And I picked up this one, which is the black cohosh. Black cohosh. And that's supposed to be really good for menopausal things. So I'm gonna see if I can grow that one and see how to use it. And then I also picked up a yellow root. I know these both have really high medicinal properties, so I'm gonna get those in the ground and I'm gonna start researching those. All these plants back here are plants that are going in the permaculture orchard whenever I get out there and get it reclaimed and weeded and taken care of. So that's what all this is. And then here's my little corner of medicinal plants that I really don't know what to do with them yet, but I've got a lime. That's my cinnamon. I've got some ginger, and another Camellia sinensis back there, right there, that I got from Rosica. And I still got to go over there and give you guys a tour of her greenhouse. This is moringa, the wonderful little moringa. So good, so high in all kinds of nutrients. It's got like a little peppery flavor to it. We throw it in our salads. We love it. I got some turmeric. And over here I've got garlic laid out to dry, but the bad thing is it rained really heavy today while I was gone, and now my garlic that was all dried is wet. So I don't know what to do about that. I'm gonna have to leave it out here and let it dry out again before I can store it. I hate that I let it rain on it and get wet, but I didn't really know it was gonna rain today. So that's just the beginning of my medicinal herb garden. I've got it just kind of all over the place. I've got a specific section for the medicinal herb garden, but I also just kind of have them scattered all throughout my potager garden. I have them in my orchard. I got a lot of comfrey in the orchard, and I'm going to take some divisions from that and move a bunch over here to the potager and medicinal garden, because I use comfrey a lot for a lot of different reasons. It's a very good companion plant for your garden too. But I also have them around my garden shed. I have them around my chicken coop. I've got medicinal herbs everywhere. But I just wanted to show you what I've got going on and show you the beginning stages of my plant medicine journey here. I know a little bit about all these herbs, and I know how to grow them, but I don't really know the full potential of how to use them medicinally. So I'm diving deep and I'm studying intently. I'm researching and studying all about the different herbs, how to use them, what they're good for. And as I'm learning about each herb and studying it, I have a little video series going on Sunday afternoons called Sunday Afternoon in the Garden, featuring different plants. So far we've talked about elderflowers, we've talked about borage, and we've talked about calendula. And this Sunday we're going to talk about lavender. I'm focusing in on each herb individually, and as I'm learning more and more about them, I'm trying to just share that information that I have with you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you're having a blessed day, and I will catch you on the next video.